Welcome back to the Cam and Strick podcast. Great to have you with us again. Of course, we had Ryan O'Reilly for our first episode. This one, Cam, gonna kind of switch it up a little bit. Bring in Mike Commodore, one of the most interesting people in a sport where, let's face it, there's not that many people who are that interesting.
No, he definitely is. He's very, very entertaining. I got to meet him a couple times in these fantasy camps that we go to. He's got a lot of stories to tell. He's been in the game a long time. He's a Stanley Cup champion. And he has a feud with a couple coaches as well, and he's definitely going to get into it, and he's not quiet about that, so we're going to dig into a lot of things with Mike Commodore.
You know, it's interesting, and I say that, listen, there's a lot of great personalities around the NHL, and there have been for years, but not everybody's comfortable opening up about the people that they dislike, at least as much as Mike Commodore is. You know, a lot of people go through their entire career, and believe me, there are people who they don't like, but they don't always tell you who they don't like. He's pretty comfortable doing that.
He doesn't give a shit, and you'll see coming in with this interview. Great guy, great stories. Mike Commodore coming at you. And now to the guest. Mike Commodore played for multiple teams, a lot of teams. I can't even run down all the teams you played for because there's so many of them. Won a Stanley Cup in 2006, played against us when I played for the New Jersey Devils. And just a great character to be around. I love going to fantasy camps, and I see that red hair walking in. I'm like, okay, I'm already entertained. So I love hanging out with you, bud. And welcome to the Cam and Strick podcast. What's going on with you, man?
Hey, not a whole lot. First off, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it. Everything's good. Just doing a little work, a little bit of radio, too. I'm up here in Calgary full-time now after I spent a couple years in Phoenix, but I've been up here now for, I guess, about 2 years. So just doing that thing.
So what do you mean you're doing that? So okay, so you retire, you made good money, you've been in the league a long time, you're a Stanley Cup champion. What was next? Okay, where you're like, okay, you know, I'm pretty witty. I could go on. I could probably do radio. I could probably do some TV. How'd you get into what you're into now, and what is it?
So what I'm doing now, well, actually, I'll go from after I retired. After I retired, for whatever reason, I'm like, you know what? I just want to go somewhere warm. And I want to play some golf. I enjoy golfing, so I just have a little condo down in Phoenix. So I went down to Scottsdale and basically hung out there except for a couple months each summer when it's too hot. I was pretty much down there for 3 years. And then it was kind of getting to the point, like I think I retired when I was 34, 35, and I was like 37, 38. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this is great. Like, I'm having a good time. I enjoy playing golf. But I'm like, I'm at the golf course 5 days a week. Like, the biggest battle of my week is like, how am I going to get through the week without drinking too much? I'm like, I got to find something to do here. So, I mean, on the weekends and stuff, once in a while, I'm all for it. But I'm like, you know what? I need to find something to do. So I ended up coming back up to Calgary because that's where I thought most of my opportunity would be. So I came up here and just kind of met this kid. Long story short, he owns a small construction company. We do like some work for telecommunications companies. So like what would be Cox Cable and stuff like that down in the States. So I just do like a little bit of sales for him. And then just recently here, Rhett Warner retired from like the morning talk radio. So they are looking for a replacement. So they have three of us kind of doing 2-week trials. I've done 1 2-week little segment there a couple weeks ago, and I just started again for another 2 weeks today. So that's where I'm at.
Morning radio, that sounds tough. That's early, right? I mean, we're talking really early or no?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've never married, no kids, so getting up was never really my thing. I got to be on air at 6. The only good thing is I'm like 5 minutes from the radio station, so the travel is nothing. Yeah, so it is early, especially for me. I mean, I'm up at like 5:15. I don't mind it though, because at least during the week it's going to keep me in.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for kind of an angle. I'm like, you know what? I got to get to bed. That's not the end of the world. And then the weekends I can enjoy myself. But it's been pretty good so far.
Forces you to be disciplined.
Yeah, and it's not bad either, because that's when people are listening.
Exactly.
And that's when they pay is early morning radio. How difficult is it, though, in terms of, I mean, they want you to be a hockey analyst or they want you to be a personality? What do they want from Mike Commodore? They want the Twitter Mike or they want the hockey Mike?
I actually got a warning already.
I love it.
Not for anything that I said, but before I even started, so I'm on what's called the Fan 960 here, which is Rogers Sportsnet. Mm-hmm. So Rogers basically bought all of the games here in Canada a couple years ago. They spent, I don't know how much, a ton, billions on these games. So they were concerned. The brass in Toronto was concerned once they heard that I was invited to do a 2-week trial. They were like, well, we're a little concerned about this guy's Twitter personality and what he's going to say. So the guy here like pulled me aside. He's like, hey, look, like we want to have you on, but and he was kind of dancing around it. And I'm like, look, if you think I'm going to get on the radio and just start, basically the biggest concern, I mean, the big thing up here is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They jam it down your throat 24/7. And so they don't want me they want to be careful like what I'm saying about the Leafs. So I go, look, I'm not going to come on here and just go on just rants about how much I hate Mike Babcock for no reason. I'm going to be honest. If you don't want me to be honest on here, then you might as well not even have me. But the only thing I told them I would do is that I would cut out what's the language on this podcast anyways? I
You
don't
can
want
say whatever the hell you want.
Okay. So all I told them, I'll calm down on the hashtag #FuckBabs on Twitter. I can do that. But other than that, I'm just going to be honest. And they were like, all right, that's fine. So, yeah, basically it's they just want a hockey perspective on, obviously the 90% of it or 80% of it would be the Flames. The Oilers are pretty important up here too. So kind of be up to date with that. And then just pretty much whatever the big stories are of the day and whoever's coming into town to play the Flames. So tomorrow LA's in town. So I'm sure tomorrow we'll go over the roster a little bit. And yeah, it's not bad. It's been good too for me. I took basically 3 years where I didn't watch anything. So I'm starting to get back into it now. So it's a good excuse and to get me back into it and get me more engaged. And it's been fun so far.
It's funny though. You're right. I went through a phase where I didn't watch hockey when I played, really. But afterwards, you get in the radio and okay, now I'm into it. Okay, now when you play, you're all by yourself, kind of. At least I was. What am I doing? What am I doing back home? You're worried about your team, but I wasn't really watching everybody else at the time. Now I'm obsessed with everything. But it's funny, being in this business though, Kami. I do get worried about pissing off some of the guys. I do. I think about it. Yeah. But you also have to be honest. But as far as coaches are concerned, I'm they come, they go. These guys might stay here, but the coaches, they come, they go. It's I'm going to be critical of them. But do you ever get worried about pissing some of the guys off who you might see on a daily basis?
That is a great point. I have thought of it. That was one of the things that I'm okay, I have no problems, if going after some coaches. Basically exactly what you just said. But I'm I know a couple guys in the team. I run in, I don't hang out with the Flames, but, every once in a while, I used to play with Giordano back in the minors when he was a rookie. So I've gone to a couple of Flame events and stuff like that. And I'm I don't really want to piss. For instance, here in Calgary last year, they had a great year. And then at the end, they go into the playoffs and they get totally shit kicked by Colorado. Mm-hmm. They should have been swept in 4 games. Their top line, which basically on most teams, but this team especially, a lot of the scoring came from Monahan, Gaudreau, and Lindholm. And in the playoffs, it wasn't just them. Other than Mike Smith and Sam Bennett, the team was terrible. But I was on during the playoffs, and I'm right after. Sorry, they had lost out in 5. And so they asked, what'd you think of the playoffs, or Calgary in particular? Nobody knew what to expect at the beginning of the year. They finished first in the West. The expectations go up. You go into the playoffs, and you basically get run out. It wasn't like it was a good series. If it wasn't for Mike Smith saving 50 shots a game, it should have been 4-0. And I'm you know what? I like the guys on the team and everything, but I need to see these, the guys, they were non-existent. You couldn't notice them out there. So I just said that. Next year, next playoff run, whenever that is, I need to see these guys, the big boys that put up all the numbers in the regular season. I'm watching them on in the playoffs, and it's they're non-existent. The only time I see them is when something bad's happening.
Didn't notice them.
So that, you didn't notice them unless it was somebody was just torching them and going and scoring a goal. I'm you can't have that. And then, word had gotten out, and a couple of the guys, came in. They didn't say anything to me, but said something to a couple of buddies of mine. And I'm I just told them, I don't really want to. Yeah, one of the guys, it was fine, but I just told him, hey man, look, they're having me on the radio for a reason. They want me to say something. I have to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and make stuff up. And if I think you're playing great, I'm going to be the first guy to tell you that. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say you're playing. Yeah, I'm going to pump your tires. If I think you're playing great, I'll be the first guy on it. But I'm on the flip side of that, if you're worried about what I'm saying on talk radio, I'm like, you got your priorities way out of whack. Like, what I'm saying,
exactly.
Like what I'm saying doesn't matter.
But they only hear the bad
negative.
stuff. They don't hear the good stuff though, Commie. I mean, that's been going on forever and ever. They never hear what you say that's good, even though 98% of it may be good. But the one time you have a criticism with certain guys, at least the guys with the thin skin, that's when you hear from them.
Yeah, which I find like, I don't know, Jance, like when you played, like I was like you, like I paid attention to my team. It wasn't like I was really paying attention to the rest of the league. But I'm like, I didn't really. But it's now different times. It's it's like I wasn't online searching my name and looking for like articles on my. I'm like, I didn't pay attention. And maybe obviously it's different now. Everybody's on their phone all the time. These kids are younger and they're more in tune with what's going on online. But that's why that's what I find amazing. It's like, hey, it's like what the media is saying doesn't really matter. Like it shouldn't. I know it does and it can. But it shouldn't really affect. You should be blocking that stuff. The only stuff that should matter is what's coming from your teammates, the coaching staff, the general manager,
ice time,
and maybe your parents.
Yeah,
and that's it. What Mike Commodore is saying on Fan 960 radio in the morning, who cares? It doesn't matter. So.
Well, all the people you just mentioned, that's who's listening, right? Your parents are listening and whatever. But just be good to our boy Matthew Tkachuk. That's the one guy you've got to be good to over there in Calgary.
He's a good dude.
No
problem. He is a good dude.
Yeah, for sure. How do you reflect on your career then, Mike? Because everyone looks at some of the stuff you put out there on Twitter, but you won a Stanley Cup. Signed a big ticket in Columbus. Maybe didn't work out exactly the way you wanted it, but you had a good run with other teams as well. So overall, did you really enjoy your experience as an NHL player? How do you look back at it?
Yeah, I would say yes. Now that it's been over for a few years and I look back at it, I mean, I consider myself very fortunate. I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. I like to think I took advantage of my opportunities on a personal level. But overall, I think I did for my skill set. I thought I did well for myself as it was going on. And was there a time when I was done? In my and like 90. Rarely. We're not all Nick Lidstroms. Very rarely does a player get to retire on his own terms, and I totally get that. But looking at mine, and I could care less anymore, but I was rattled for a little while.
Yeah. I
mean, when I was in Columbus, it was like I actually had a good couple of years there where things were pretty good, and then there was a coaching change, and I was gone. I was off the team because I was the highest paid defenseman in the organization, and I wasn't playing because I was single. The head coach was jealous. And then I made a huge mistake and
you get it back.
I got lied.
Wait.
What's that?
Say that one more time. So explain that.
You didn't play because you were single. I think
explain
that's
that. Explain that.
Yeah, no problem. It took me a while to figure this out. So my first year in Columbus was really good. It was probably on a personal level, probably the best I played as a pro in any of my years. Second year I was hurt a little bit, but I hung in there and grinded it out. But we had made the playoffs my first year. Second year we didn't. We had a pretty good team there actually. And then so expectations went up. We didn't meet them, so there was a coaching change. And Scott Housen, the Blue Jackets, hired Scott Arniel. So Scott Arniel is now the assistant, I think, in Washington now. He's been around a little bit. Scott had a good NHL career. He played about 700 games, and he played a ton in the minors. But he had married and kids when he was young. Feels like he didn't make as much money as maybe he should have. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're probably right. But regardless, that has nothing to do with me. And he came in, and right from the word, and this took me like a year and a half to figure out, but right from the get-go, this guy wanted nothing to do with me. And I'm playing, I was fighting, I was playing well, and it's just scratch. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what's this guy's problem? Like, I've never met this guy before in my life, and I was actually excited to have him come in because I'm like, oh, this guy's been around a little bit. His assistant coach, Brad Berry, went to North Dakota, where I went to school. He was in charge of the D, so I'm like, this should work out good. But I wasn't taking anything for granted. But he started having these meetings, and we'd be like, let's say we lose a game or something. He started yelling and screaming about it. You're trying to take money away from me and my family. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Yeah. So anyways, I end up basically getting kicked off the team at Christmas.
Oh, my God.
And so that's the end of me in Columbus, and I get bought out, and I go to Detroit, which is another huge mistake. But
fuck it, double dip.
Dip
that money.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The one, it is nice getting two paychecks. That part was nice. But the next year, he tried doing the exact same thing to Derek Brassard, but he got fired before. And Derek was a goal scorer, and he was young, so Derek could survive it. Scott Arniel got canned. Brassard, Nash, everybody, the trade to the Rangers, everything. Arneal got canned, and that was it. But yeah, it was a total disaster.
Isn't that weird?
So, oh man, it's like,
yeah. You know, when you go into a situation as a player, and automatically the coach just doesn't. He's not receptive to you. He's just kind of.
Yeah.
You say hi, you just and you're like, something's off, because you see how he reacts to everybody else, and we've all been through this kind of stuff. But right off the bat, you're like, nah, oh shit, there's something I did. There's something, and coaches do this, and there might not be a big explanation for it, but it does happen. It sounds bizarre, but it does happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, and by no means do I think I'm the only one. Like, it happens a lot, and it happens every year, and it happens on a lot of teams. I think it was just the first time where, like, I'm like, man, I'm trying to think of another time when, because I'm sitting there as this is happening, and I was playing well. And I'm like, I'm the highest paid defenseman in this organization. I'm getting scratched. Nobody's saying anything. I'm like, this is, and I don't understand what is going on. And finally, it took me a while to figure out. But when I was sitting in Detroit the next year, Broussard was calling me all the time. He's like, man, this guy's doing this. And I'm barely playing. I'm on the fourth line. He's saying this in meetings. And I'm like, dude, it's because you're single. This guy's jealous. And anyway,
single,
it was
were you single doing your thing? And were you talking about in the locker room? And he probably was sitting in the coach's room, have rabbit ears going on. You're talking about doing your thing with all the girls and shit like that. I mean, maybe he thought that you were a bad influence to the young guys because you were going out. I mean, was that have something to do with it too?
You know what? Maybe he thought that, but I can be completely honest, and I got nothing to lose now. I tell you, like,
gives a shit.
Yeah, I would go out if it was like a green light, but like I was by no means was I like running the young guys and we're going out all the time. Like I wasn't like that at all. So he might have thought that, because a lot of people when they this guy's in his 30s and single, he must be chasing the booze like an animal. But I'm like, I'm not chasing the booze like an animal at all. Like I go out when the rest of the guys go out, but that's about it. So he might have thought that. Yeah. If he did, it definitely could have been a reason for sure. Who knows? I haven't had a chance to talk to that scumbag.
Well, let me get back to
I hate him too.
I want to know who you like, though.
I know.
Because I know you like somebody. I know you like
sure.
somebody. Rob Brindamore, probably.
I do. No, I like Rod. No, you know what? The only people that, I mean, I know it's Twitter, so it kind of gets blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, I hate Mike Babcock. I hate Scott Arneal, and I make fun of Pierre Maguire online a little bit, but other than that, I'm good. I'm pretty good with everybody else.
What'd you do? So I remember playing in 06, was it? You're playing in Carolina. You have a huge fan base there at the point. We're playing for the Devils. You go down there. I love driving down there. Everything's real pretty. You're in the middle of nowhere. People are tailgating like it's an NFL game going on. You had an unbelievable fan base. Like they kind of like what they do a little bit now. It's kind of back and revigorated. But back then, man, you guys had a hell of a hockey team. You surprised us in the second round. I jumped you in Game 5, I believe. But tell me about that run. Yeah, I know. I didn't even punch you in the face. I couldn't even reach your face, so it was just an irrelevant fight one way or the other. But whatever. But you guys go out and you beat us, and you win the Stanley Cup. Tell us about that run. What'd you do with the Cup? Were you out of your mind at the end of the summer where you're like, oh, my God, I got to start skating again? Kind of like what we're seeing what the Blues are doing right now. Like, these guys are all over the damn place. Tell us about that summer and winning the big championship there, buddy.
Yeah, sure. We had a good team all year. We kind of slid under the radar. I think a major reason why we won is that I think that year we were the quickest to adjust to the new rules, and we had a team that was kind of tailored to the new rules. We had a lot of guys that could score. We were pretty quick, and I mean we got some really good goaltending, which you obviously need too. Yeah. And it kind of just went from there. We had a good year, literally the whole year. Like we lost a couple games in a row, like not very often. I don't think we ever lost 3. So make the playoffs, start against Montreal, and we lose the first 2 games at home. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We just had a great year. We're going into Montreal down 2-0. We end up winning the next 4, and then we went on and played you guys. And yes, you did. You guys were on fire too. I think you guys had won like 15 in a row, something like that.
We were killing. I think we just swept the Rangers. I mean, we were just high horse.
Yeah.
Everybody was doing their thing.
Yeah, you guys were rolling, and we knew that. We were an underdog in the series, but like I said, you guys were rolling, we were rolling too, and it just worked out for us. But I do thank God you didn't reach me, because if you would have punched me in the face, you would have folded me. But I think it was I don't think it was Game 5. It was definitely in Carolina. I think it was Game 1 or 2, maybe 2. I could be wrong though. But I was always I wanted to stay out there on the ice and not get hurt. So I wanted to make sure I knew when you were on the ice, because you were like a homing missile out there. And I'm like, I got to know when Cam's out here. Otherwise, he's going to catch me. So I think we were up by a few goals, and you ran me, and you were running around a little bit before. And Peter Laviolette, he's like, hey, because we didn't have any tough guys. And like, I would fight a little bit, but I wouldn't consider myself a tough guy. But I was bigger. And Peter was like, hey, you're not fighting. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't really want to fight Cam anyway, so that's fine with me. And anyway, you smoked me after I passed the puck. It was a clean hit. It wasn't dirty or anything.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Skate.
I'm sure it was real clean. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it dirty. It might have been a charge, but that was kind of par for the course back then. And anyways, yeah, you dropped your gloves and we started fighting. And I remember going in after, and Peter was pissed at me. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, I told you not to fight. I'm like, Peter, what do you want me to do?
I grabbed you.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
I'm like, he didn't leave me much of a choice unless I was going to stand there and just take it. So anyways, Peter's like, you're right. But anyway, so we got past you guys, and then we played Buffalo, who was on fire. We got a little bit lucky there. I would say you have to be fortunate, too. They had a bunch of injuries on D.
Yeah.
We end up beating them in 7, and then it just kind of fate would have it. We end up playing against the Oilers. I grew up right outside of Edmonton. You know, previous year before the lockout, I went to the finals against the Flames. So the Flames fans were like, please beat the Oilers, because the Oilers won a bunch of cups up here. So anyways, end up taking the Oilers to 7. Had a blast. It was definitely cool. Like in Edmonton, you know, my parents live up there, and so they're like, yeah, it's loud in the building here, and it was always talk, especially in Canada, about how Edmonton was like the loudest building, and Edmonton was really loud for sure. Like, get in there, and it was a little bit intimidating, but there was no rink that was louder in Rowley, just because of what you just said. Like, the fans there, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a college area, football and basketball, and people know how to tailgate there. So, like, first round, there'd be a few tailgaters, second more. By the time the finals rolled around, we'd come in, like, for a pregame skate at 10 in the morning, leave there at 11:30 to go have lunch, games at, like, 7 or 7:30, something like that. And by the time I pulled out of the parking lot, it was a full-blown tailgate fucking party going on. I'm like, oh, my God, the game doesn't start for almost 8 hours. And so by the time the game would start, these people were loaded. So it was super loud. But, yeah, we ended up winning. Summer was great. I kind of treated that summer like, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I make it to the gym. This is important years for me coming up. But I'm like, I also, chances are this probably, I hope it happens again, and I really want it to. I'm going to try. But I'm like, it probably isn't, and I just want to make sure that I enjoy this as much as possible. So any party that I was invited to in North America, I went to. So I think I went to like 12 parties.
Oh, my, dude, that wears you out. That wears you out.
No. Oh, I know.
You're traveling all around. My God.
Got after it. But I will say, I made sure I got to the gym. I skated. And I'll say, like, numbers-wise, I had my best year as a pro the next year. But there was a hangover. I would say there was. I mean, I think the 06-07 season, that was the first time we won in 06 the year before. I think that was the first time that both teams that were in the finals the year before, neither one of them made the playoffs. It was like the first time in I don't know how many years, like 40 years or something like that. So it's interesting. St. Louis will have some interesting challenges. Like, there's no flying under the radar, and you're going to get every team's best effort.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's definitely a challenge.
And that's exactly what I asked Alexander Ovechkin that the other day. They started the season here in St. Louis, and I said, hey, what do these guys have to – he said, oh, my God, it is hard because of what you just said. Everyone's coming after you. You got the bullseye on your chest. And I remember that final, by the way, the first year out of the lockout, because Dougie Wade had just gotten traded from here.
Pronger was over there.
Pronger was there. It was unbelievable.
Brewer.
And, you heard rumblings throughout the year that he wanted out of Edmonton. I wasn't surprised that all of a sudden he was going to get out of there after that year. It wasn't a good situation for him. But real quick before we move on, but Dougie Wade coming on to the roster there and being a part of it, was you get to know him pretty well, and how did he impact the roster?
Yeah, I mean, if he was unbelievable. Like, I'd watched him growing up in Edmonton. As a kid, he was playing for the Oilers. And then, so we trade for him. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know Doug. And if there was one guy, I mean, off the top of my head, and I've answered this before, if there was one guy that I got to play with that I would have liked to have played for longer, I think Doug Waite's right at the top of that list. I thought, first off, he was an excellent player. Secondly, I loved the guy. I thought he was hilarious.
He is hilarious,
and, like, he is hilarious. Like, we would always sit. He joined the card group, so we would always play cards together. And man, I love the guy. He made me. I mean, he was so funny. And on the ice wise, like influence, Doug Weight was a great player. There's no doubt about it. But he got traded into Carolina, and it's like, Doug, you're a great player for sure, but it's like you're not going to be going right to the first power play unit playing 25. Like we have a really good team here, and I got to give all the credit to Doug. Like he took it all in stride, and it was no big deal. And if it was checking he needed to do, it was checking he did. I can't say enough good things about that guy. He is awesome.
No, that's cool.
Like Timo Solani.
And I went to his cup party actually here in St. Louis when you brought it back here.
He's supposed to be a cool guy.
You were there?
Yeah,
I was there?
Yeah, and he had all his boys there from his college days. That's what I do. I just show up, by the way.
Nice. I was at that party. I was at Doug's over at Joe Buck's house.
Yeah, and had the double-decker bus and everything. So it was a good time. It was fun. It was the first time I'd ever seen the Stanley Cup too. I'll never forget it. And I was dating my wife, brought her with me. It was actually my birthday.
Is that when you wheeled your girl?
It was my 30th birthday, I think, that day. I actually left to go to a different. But
you told her you played? I was part of this.
No, that's Al McInnes' line all the time. Hey, whenever I'm walking out of the rink, Al McInnes always says, "Hey, does your wife know you don't play for the Blues?" But
no, she doesn't.
So, all right, listen. So, for all the Twitter people out there, and you know what? Like, I coach hockey, and we were in Arizona one day for a youth hockey tournament, and we went down to the rink that morning, and Shane Doan's there, but Biz Nasty was there, and all the kids, they want to talk to Biz Nasty. I'm like, you guys don't want to talk to Shane Doan? It's like they don't even know who he is, but they know who Biz Nasty is because
social media, baby.
Of Twitter.
Yeah.
So they know who you are because of Twitter, and this whole insider thing. Give me the backstory, and I mean, are you really digging for scoops? I mean, is this something you're having fun with, or are you really trying to break stories here?
So first, I've done it for 3 years now. The first year, being completely honest, I was sitting in Arizona. This was before I was working, and I was a little bit bored. And I'm like, you know what? I did that like pack your shit thing when guys would get traded, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start firing off trades here. So I will say, the first year it was complete bullshit. Everything coming out of my mouth, I was like with a couple of guys. It'd be like I was with Neil. He was in town. He's like, hey, I think you should trade me. I'm like, yeah, where do you want to go? So I think I traded him for a Vander Kane to Buffalo or something like that. Yeah. And I was actually getting a little bit of traction. Like I remember Darren Dreger sent me he's like a insider here in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
He sent me a direct message on Twitter. He's like, hey, is that for real? And I was like thinking about, I'm like, oh, I could really make this guy. I mean, it would be funny for me, but I heard Darren's a good guy, so I'm like, hey, Darren, I'm like, anything that I tweet for the next couple of days, I'm like, just completely ignore. And he would respond, he goes, haha, okay, I will. But then after, that kind of took off and people had fun with it. So the first year I had fun with it, and I still do have fun with it. But I got one trade my first year just completely by luck. But now I'm starting to get more and more like my buddies that are either in the media, some of the guys that are in front offices, they'll be like, I'll text me like, hey, let me know what's going on here a little bit. So they'll fire out the odd. So now it's not like, I think last year or the year before, I traded Tarasenko to the Island. That was 2 years ago. Tarasenko, I traded to the Islanders for Tavares, and it blew up. Now, that was all BS. I did make that up. But the other stuff, I actually have a little bit of info. But, like, my buddies will send me a message and be like, hey, I think whatever. I think Johnny Gaudreau is going to get traded to, he's going somewhere. I'm like, where do you think? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, give me a team. And it'd be like, Tampa. I'm like, good enough, and send it. Yeah. I don't wait for any confirmation. I get a name and a team, and it's over.
It's funny how Twitter works like that. Like sometimes you overthink. Like, are you like me? I stare on Twitter sometimes. Like, is this funny? Am I making sense? And I'll stare at it for like 7 hours, and all of a sudden I don't tweet it because I was overthinking everything. Sometimes you just gotta roll with it, and it's pretty damn funny too. But at the beginning, when I saw you say pack your shit, I'm like, God, he's being kind of a dick to everybody. I'm like, damn, they're gonna be pissing him. Then I realized it's all satire. And you're like, oh, who gives a shit?
Have you made money off that at all? I mean, anything? I mean, just in terms of from a charity standpoint, using those hashtags.
No, I mean, I've done a little bit of stuff with Sauce Hockey with the In One thing with some T-shirts, but other than that, I guess there's been a Pack Your Shit T-shirt too. So, am I making any money off any of it? No, I'm not. It's all just.
I want a T-shirt. You got to send us some shirts.
Yeah, but you're on the radio now because of all this coming together too.
Send us some shirts, Commie.
I can 100% send you guys shirts. I'll get an address from you and just send me your sizes, What you want?
Kami was a marketable dude, man. He had that fro going. You stuck out. No helmet and warm-ups. Doing your thing. Trust me, man. You marketed yourself extremely well. Don't get me wrong. Let me one other thing. I know you're a busy man. You got a bunch of stuff. You got a coffee meeting coming up. But I got to set this up real quick. I got to talk about Babcock real quick. And they're taking him. You listen to TSN and all that kind of stuff, and that's all they talk about is Mike Babcock, and how he didn't dress Jason Spezza the first game. Spezza's got a long career. He's from whatever the case is, playing against Ottawa, where he's from, I should say. But you got in with him, and everybody knows that you don't like him, and he's a weird bird, to say the least. But you're not the only one. Kami, you're not the only one that's had to fight with Mike Babcock. A guy sitting right next to me, Andy Strickland, actually went toe-to-toe with him at a practice facility. Mike Babcock,
really?
Oh my God. Andy told me this story today, and he's like, we can't talk about this. I go, bullshit. Bullshit. We are talking about this, Andy. Andy almost fought Mike.
We'll tell the story.
Andy
later.
almost fought Mike Babcock, but I want to hear why you don't like him first, and then we'll get into why Andy took his shirt off and started swinging it around and tried to go toe-to-toe with him.
Yeah, Andy, I definitely need to hear. I'll get this over with quick because I want to hear this story. Basically, I had him early in my career. Well, I was in Anaheim. I never actually played for Anaheim. I got traded there. It didn't work out. Another thing, it was just a long story short. It was a bunch of bullshit moves, but basically he just didn't want me there. So whatever, that happens all the time. I go back to the minors. Thank God Calgary trades for me later that year. I go on about my business and move along. I sign in Columbus. The media there kind of knew that I didn't like him. Something might have come out, like just kind of talking earlier. So first time Detroit's in town against Columbus my first year. I ripped Babs in the paper, like pretty good. Nothing crazy, but like kind of gave it to him a little bit. Guys in the locker room, I heard cut it. We won the game 3-2 in overtime. I actually had a couple of assists. I assisted on the winner. I was so pumped. And I heard after the game that like a couple of guys had cut the article out and highlighted the parts where I was ripping on Babs and put it on the wall in the dressing room. So my first reaction was like, oh man, I'm like, I don't want these guys. I don't want to be like the rallying cry. These guys, think I'm a loudmouth and lipping off their coach. Well, I found out it was the exact opposite. It was like the older guys they were cutting this article out because they hated him too. And they wanted to make sure that he saw it. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Nobody likes him. But the big reason why I don't like him was after I got bought out in Columbus, the next day was July 1st, not expecting anything. And I get a phone call 5 minutes into free agency. And I know once you get bought out, like, you're lucky to get one more chance. And if you do, you better make it work or that's the end of the road. And it doesn't matter who you are. And so I knew I was hopeful for one more chance, but I didn't know, prepared to wait till August or whatever, maybe a PTO, I had no clue. So the next day, it's literally like 12:05. Free agency just starts. Get a phone call from my agent. Hey, got a contract offer, 1 year, $1 million, one way. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, that didn't take long. I'm like, who's it from? It's like Detroit. First reaction, I'm like, fuck, I'm not going there. Babcock wants to end my career for sure. So it was a different agent. He didn't know about the stuff that happened 8 years prior. So I'm like, fill him in real quickly. And I'm like, hey, look, just tell him I'm not, we'll get back to him. He's like, Mike, you have 15 minutes to make up your mind. Either you're in or you're out. If they don't know in 15 minutes, the contract's off the table. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get anything else. Free agency just started. If anybody else is interested, they're not even considering calling me yet. Like, I'm like an August 1st maybe. So I'm like, well, for fuck's sake. So I'm like, I'll call you right back. So I call Ken Holland, who I'm friends with. I've done his golf tournament. I talked to Ken. I go, Ken, I'd love to play for you. I'd love to play in Detroit. You know what? I think you're head coach. We had beers fucking ripping on him last time I was at the tournament. I'm like, does he want me on the team? Yeah, Mike, he does. Are you sure, Ken? He's like, yeah. I'm like, give me his phone number. I'm calling this guy. So I call Babs. Yeah, I'm like, I got to know here. So I call, and I'm like, Babs, please be honest with me. I know this is going to be my last opportunity. If this doesn't work out for me, I'm done. Do you want me on your hockey team or not? Yeah, Mike. We need a physical presence. We don't have any right-handed D. Nick likes playing with a right-handed D. I'm like, Babs, don't bullshit me.
Nick likes playing with a right-handed D?
I'm like, yeah. I know. There was the hook, line, and sinker right there. But I'm like, I need to know I'm going to get an opportunity. I don't want anything special. I just need to know you're going to give me a chance. I'm like, I know I can still play. Yeah. You're going to get a chance. You're going to get a chance. So I'm like, I hang up the phone. I got 5 minutes left. It's either yes or no. And I call my agent back. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, he's going to fuck me. I go, I know he's going to fuck me. He's like, well, what did he say? I'm like, well, he said this. He's like, man, playing with Nick, you're in Detroit, you're going to make the playoffs. So I'm like, yeah, it would be good playing with Nick. I just go D to D all year, and that's going to be 40 points.
Assists,
I'll be right back in it. Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm like, yes, maybe another 5-year deal. So I say yes. And anyways, get to training camp. I showed up ready to go. I showed up lighter than I'd ever been. And basically, I was scratched from the word go. He wouldn't even let me practice. It was a fucking joke. It was obvious. He was calling guys up from the minors to keep me scratched.
Oh.
It was terrible. And so that was why I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you asshole. I went out, like, I called you. If you didn't want me on the team, all you had to do, and I said this too, and I go, if you don't want me on the team, Babs, just let me know. No hard feelings. I'll wait for something else. So it's like I gave him the opportunity. All I wanted was him to be honest with me. And it wasn't like I got an opportunity and I fucked it up. I was done from the word go, and that was the end of my career.
And for people that don't know, people are probably like, okay, well, you're still in the NHL. You're still no. Do you know how miserable it is going and you see another kid's fucking name next to you that you don't even know, but it called up and he's taking your spot. You're the veteran. You got to, like, it wears on you. It ages you. And you see him in the hall, then you're going to different. Oh my God, it's a tough situation, man.
Tough.
And it builds hatred. But Andy actually fought him.
I get a lot of it too. Yeah, I want Andy talk to me.
But hold on. How do you? Because it stays with you, right? I mean, even though you've been removed from Detroit for several years now, I mean, that experience, it doesn't go away, does it?
No, I mean, I as far as like Detroit, as far as I'm concerned, had nothing to do with it. And in a way, I actually was fortunate to be in Detroit because that's actually a lot of the guys that I keep in touch with and go on golf trips and stuff. That's actually came from Detroit. So in a way, it worked out. But hockey-wise, it didn't. And to this day, I mean, it doesn't help either that I now have to, every time you turn the TV on in this country, you got to look at that scumbag. And I sit there and I watch this guy talk. I mean, his favorite time of the day is when the media is there. He is never missing a media scrum, period.
Oh, yeah.
Kami, today,
I didn't see what he did today.
Today, the Blues are playing up there, and Joey Vitale and Darren Panger are doing a thing. Mike Babcock comes right behind him and starts to give him a hug and walks right away. Give me that little attention. I'm here. I'm the main man.
Dude, and that's what that move is with Spezza. It's like, hey, dude, this guy's been in the NHL for a long time. He grew up a Leafs fan. You guys signed him. He had a pretty good camp. Every other coach, or most, I won't say every other, but most other coaches are going to be like a lot of coaches, a very high percentile.
Just about every coach are going to do the right thing.
Of course.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, come on.
Pretty much every other coach in the fucking league is going to be like, you know what? This guy's been in the NHL for a long time.
Yes.
You know, playing, not only is it the Leafs home opener, the team that he liked, but also it's against his old team, the Ottawa Senators. I'm like, you play the guy. It's as simple as that. But you don't have to play him 25 minutes. You got to get him out there. He needs to be playing in that game. But for Babs, it's like, oh, yeah? You guys think Mike or Jason Spezza should be playing? Well, fuck him. I'm in charge. This is my team. It's a power move for him. He is so arrogant. And fortunately, I have never seen him since he signed in Toronto. I can't even imagine the arrogance on that fucking guy after he signed an 8-year deal for $50 million or whatever it was. Like, his arrogance has got to be completely off the charts.
Don't you think, though, when you sit a guy out like Jason Spezza, who, listen, the rest of the team, they know that he's at the end of the line, but he
100%.
brings some credibility because he's been through it. He's played, probably over 1,000 games at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that it just cements what the rest of the team may be thinking at the time, and almost like they're all going to Jason Spezza and they're all saying, hey, you're getting absolutely screwed or whatever. You should be playing. This guy's a jerk,
We're on your
whatever.
side.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think that almost galvanizes those who already don't like the coach to kind of build a coalition?
Or other people that want to come play for Toronto?
Away from the coach? Because, listen, I know guys who are pretty close with the Austin Matthews of the world and some of these younger guys. I don't think the relationship there is that rosy. It's been documented too.
Yeah, I don't think. See, the thing is that look, I would love to say that he doesn't know anything about hockey, and he's a total idiot. Like, he does know hockey. I'll give him that. But he's also been fortunate enough to be every year he's been in the league. He's had a really good team. I mean, he's had a lot of talent. So do I think those guys don't like him? Yeah, I think for sure they don't. I get the odd text message from guys that are like, I mean, they're bitching, and they're like, this guy's an asshole, and the odd story about him throwing shit out in front of hotels and yelling and screaming, I'm the head coach of the Maple Leafs, my fucking shit should be at the front. Like, arrogance off the charts. So do I think they like him? No, I don't think they do. But the thing is that they're so talented that they get away with it for now. I'm just praying for, and I get ripped on by Leaf fans online and whatever. It's actually
We all
gotten
do.
better over the last little while. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Who gives a shit?
But
Jesus
I'm like,
Christ.
man, I'm like, yeah, I could care less. But I'm like, I got nothing against Toronto. I'm sure it's a great place to play. I'm like, I'm just hoping for, I mean, missing the playoffs would be awesome, but that's highly unlikely. Like, another first-round exit, please run into the Bruins again. I'm learning to love the Boston Bruins, and I hope he gets fucking canned. The Heat gets turned up, and they can that motherfucker at some point. After they can him, I hope they win the cup. I'm fine with that. I just hope he isn't there for it, because it will be painful. I might have to move.
You might. Well, that's why you're probably gonna like Andy Strickland, because Andy used to be a writer back in the day. Andy, tell this story about Mike Babcock, who got in your fucking face.
So
you took your shirt off and bagged him
No,
up.
I didn't. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But I wrote for a website called Hockey Buzz. You heard of Hockey Buzz? Whatever. HockeyBuzz.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So
Don't lie.
This is back in 2007. I think I left there maybe 2011, 2012, and wrote a story about a throwdown in Motown. I knew some of the guys inside the room. They're telling me about some of these issues that are going on between the players and the coach. There was a rumor about a little bit of a dust-up between Chris Draper and Mike Babcock prior to the team coming to St. Louis. I think there was a game in Colorado, then they had the All-Star break, then they came to St. Louis. And I had written this story, and I had written other stuff in the past as well. But I'm outside the dressing room. The video coach, who I knew, who's now a head coach in the American Hockey League, Jay Woodcroft, he says to Mike Babcock, that's him right there. And I knew Jay because I used to do the broadcasting for a team in the United Hockey League when he played there. And Babcock gets in my face and he starts yelling at me. I'm
in front of people.
Oh, right in front of people.
Everybody.
You know, every time I come to St. Louis, I got to put out fires. And he's pointing at me. I mean, literally, face to face, spitting all over my face and saying, you got a problem, you come see me. I'm a stand-up guy. Bernie Federko, the Hall of Famer, walks by. He thinks he's joking. He's like, Andy, don't ever mess with a Western Canadian. But then he realizes that he's serious. And he kept walking away, then coming back, walking away, then coming back.
Come back. Oh,
and,
my God.
just in my face, I thought he was going to hit me. I'm surprised that he didn't.
Wish he would have.
And no, I know, but he chose not to.
Wish he would have.
But then he won the cup, I think, the next later. And I thought maybe I'm going to try to make amends with this guy. He was in St. Louis. I said, hey, listen, congratulations on winning the cup. Hope we can move on from what happened a couple of years ago. He said, I don't like it. I thought it was slimy. So he still wasn't over it from a couple of years ago.
Keep ripping on him,
But,
Tommy.
I'm downplaying it. It was a scene. He was in my face. He was bright red, and he was pissed off.
You're not
for
the
sure.
only one then, bud. You're not the only one.
Oh, dude, he's a fucking. You know what he is, which sums it up, and he's on TV here. He's a mental health advocate, and I see this, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This guy, the best way, one word to define him, he's a bully.
Yeah.
He is a straight up bully. Is exactly what he is, and he's not dumb. Like I think he has a psychology degree from McGill. He's not dumb. Like, he is smart, but he is a straight up bully. And he tries to intimidate. Honestly, he needs to get beat up. Somebody needs to put him.
Well, Andy almost did that.
Wait for something to happen. What do you do, a bully? You come right at him, you kick the shit out of him, and he'll be a bully no more. But that's what he is. He tries to intimidate, and he to this point, he gets away with it.
Kami, appreciate everything, man. Thank you for coming on. I know you got a coffee meeting coming up. We're going to be listening to you. We're going to touch base again. We got a lot more stories to go over, bud.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, guys. I had a lot of fun.
Hey, I want that T-shirt too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hook us up with some T-shirts.
Yeah.
We're gonna blow up. St. Louis is a hockey crazy right now, and they want the insider.
Yep.
We'll hook us up, and we'll give you some royalty on it. Awesome, bud. Thank you again.
Send me an address, and I'm happy to. All right,
Got it, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it,
Mike.
All right. Yep. Bye-bye.
That was Mike Commodore on the Cam and Strick podcast. I hope you enjoyed that, because I did. I like hearing from different personalities and different people that make up the game of hockey. Not everybody's comfortable talking about the people they don't like. They'll tell you who they did like, Mike Commodore is pretty comfortable. But Cam, the one thing that I took out of it was the fact that, hey, even if you're making millions of dollars and you're living out a dream playing in the NHL, it's not always rosy, is it?
It's not always rosy by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, he is a Stanley Cup winner, but he did have a lot of ups and downs in his career, and he talks about a lot of different things, and he's very, very open now as well. So I appreciate him doing that. And by the way, if you want to check out the links, we have our Twitter and social media going up. Check out the link to there. And by the way, you can see our fight in the 06 playoffs. Pretty funny stuff.
You don't hear too many athletes, let alone hockey players, who play a long time, finish their career, and then all of a sudden are open about a lot of the issues that really distracted them from just loving the game, you know? And that's really what it comes down to,
and
right?
That's
you
why
show up
he
to
came
the
on.
rink every single day, and it's not always that fun. But did you ever have a coach that you hated like that?
No, because if I was sitting games out, there's always a reason for it. For him, it could have been a different story. So, but he definitely got into it, and we love his honesty. And again, he's a great guy and very, very entertaining to deal with. So, but it just shows, man. It just shows you can be a Stanley Cup champion, and it's not graceful when you leave the game.
Love how he said he went to a dozen Stanley Cup parties. Like, he couldn't just let it go.
That just wears you out.
All over North
Oh,
America, he's traveling around, so he certainly enjoyed it. Of course, you know, with the Carolina Hurricanes winning back in 2006. So hope you enjoyed the podcast. Check out the show notes. All the information is there, how to get a hold of us. We want to hear from you. You have comments, you have questions. Check out our Twitter accounts, our Instagram accounts are there as well. Get with us. Let us know what you like and what you don't like. And also check out the link of the scrap between Cam Janssen and Mike Commodore. It's there for you to check out. We'll have a new podcast for you the early portion of every week, so be sure to look for that. Episode number 2 in the books of the Cam and Strick podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon.